Hey guys, what's going on? So I have been thinking about this video for a couple of days now, and it's something that I've kind of been thinking about in the sense that I get this question all the time, and it's different variations of this question, but essentially I always get this question, and I think it covers a lot of different things. And so if you don't know how most of the videos on my channel work, this is essentially a podcast. You do not need to look at anything that I'm going to put up on screen. You can, but it's basically just me talking about this thing. So what is this thing? So I get the question a lot of what should I invest into? What should I, how much investment should I put into this legendary? Should I upgrade this legendary? What should I use my crystals on? This question comes in many forms, and I thought that just with my own base knowledge of this game, what I would invest into. And I'm going to be talking about talents, specifically on legendaries, commons, epics, and rares. I would actually, other than maybe sharpshooter, I would put no investment into any of those talents. Most of them are things that you will never use at high level gameplay. They might be good at low level, like Crystalmancer might be good at low level. Engineer in the same regard might be good at low level, but at a certain point you start to get legendaries, and legendaries will always outclass commons, epics, and rares. And essentially, I feel like, because I have the account that I do, I have a reasonable amount of knowledge about different units at different strength levels. I don't have knowledge about everybody, and we'll go into that because there's a lot of things that I just straight up don't use. And I won't be really talking about anything that is that doesn't have talents. I'll go over a couple of them that I've decided to upgrade, but most things without talents are pretty terrible. So Hex without talents, what's it called? Hex without talents, Corsair without talents, Stasis without talents. They're all pretty terrible. But I feel like I remember when Summoner came out and it was going to get talents, and the talents got released, and I looked at it, and I think I had the ability to upgrade mine to an 11. I think I had 2 or 4 extra copies. I had a reasonable amount of copies, and I thought to myself, do I want to invest into this into 11, right? Are the talents really good? And because if they're really good, and if I think that they're game breaking, I'm totally going to save all of these copies, because it'll take me a lot longer of a time to get copies back, as opposed to sacrificing crystals, right? But at that time, I was also trying to upgrade other things. I don't remember what I was trying to upgrade, but I was trying to upgrade other things. So I looked at the talents, and I really liked Enhanced Summoning, and I didn't think that 11 was great, and then I thought 13 and 15 were good. And so then I was like, I either have to full invest into, maxing it to 15, because 13 and 15 are kind of tied together. 13 is really good, but it also ties together with 15, and then 15 makes, obviously a max summoner is going to be amazing, right? But the 11 talent wasn't really overwhelming to me. It was very underwhelming, actually. And it's good. I'm not going to say that it's useless, but it's just not as good as the 13-15 talent, and you're not going to notice that much of a difference. But the 9 talent is really good, and that's what I want to talk about. Because I'll say this straight, ahead of time. Everybody's argument is, oh, that would be really good at 15. Oh, you should really upgrade that because it's really good at 15. And I don't know if this is a newsflash or something that I need to point out, but everything is really good at 15. Everything at its max strength, max talent, max everything is going to be really good. It doesn't matter what card it is. It is much better at 15. But that's not really the question. Because the question is, should I invest into this? Because I haven't invested in this. Should I spend the time? Should I save all of these copies? Because it's going to dramatically change the course of my game. It's going to, dramatically impact my future of playing this game, right? And that's what I want to go into. So we'll start early. I'm just going to go in order, and I'll start at Banshee. Banshee post-patch is actually really good because they changed, like Monk, they changed the activation time. So it activates much quicker. I think that Solitude is the better one, but I think that there is a case to be made that Coven is better because once you start going into the level 11 talent and you get Growing Anger, you have a 10% chance to increase the merge rank of a random tower. I believe it's Banshee. I don't think it just randomly upgrades everything on your board, right? The chance increases by 5% for every tower on the field. And again, I'm pretty sure that means Banshee, not all 15. It doesn't get 5% if you have a full board, right? 5 times 15%, right? So if you were to be running Coven, and if you had 7 Banshees on your board, which is the L in the Monk, this dies to everything gets locked out thanks to Necromancer, right? If you have the 7, right? 7 times 10 is a 70% chance to increase. I'm sorry, using an active ability has the 10% chance to increase the merge rank of a random tower. And it's plus 5% for every random tower. Okay, got it. So it's 10, and then it's 5 for each tower. So if you had 7, it would be 35. It's like 45%. Is that how that's how that works? It's 10%, and then 5 for the 6. That would be 30. 30 plus 10 is 40. 30% is 40%. You get a 40% chance of upgrading a Banshee, which is obviously really good. Because you're not going to use the other one, which is if there are one or fewer Banshees, the damage of all Banshees is increased by 10. I'm sorry. If there are 1 or fewer Banshees on the field, and if there are 1 or fewer Banshees on the field, you're gonna die. Merging units results in a new Banshee. The fact that they made it 1 or fewer means that you'll basically almost never have that happen. It's just to not get you screwed in the early parts of the game. Like when you merge, you'll get a Banshee, and you'll have it at the very least the 1 Banshee, right? The 10% bonus is nice, but you're really using this for the level ups, right? Infirmity and Decay, that becomes damage. You're just getting extra damage with both of these. I know that with Decay, the monster's health, they die at a certain percentage of health, which is very good. And it's useful in the Executioner percentage deck. And then obviously Banshee's Wail is the real reason why you're running Banshee in the first place. But I think that once you get Coven, or once you hit the 9 talent, you kind of have to get the 11 talent for it to reasonably shine, and then it becomes your choice of whether or not you want to go for 13, 15. Because 13 and 15 are kind of tied together. If you're going to go for 13, you might as well max it out. Because at that point you're fully invested into Banshee. You might as well just max it out, and then the Banshee's Wail is going to be the real reason why you're using this card. And I think it becomes, because of the Banshee's Wail, I think that ability you can probably basically use like a Bombardier in your deck. And I think that if more people had Banshee, more people would be running it at max. They'd use it as a support card, because as a support card, if it kept leveling itself up and getting more powerful, giving you boosted damage, which was far beyond what Bombardier would have given you, and you're getting Banshee's Wail on boss rounds, it turns every single deck to just a monster. But I think that it's the fact that not a lot of people have Banshee to begin with, let alone at max, that you don't see this more often. I think at 15, it becomes one of the best support cards, but I think in terms of should you use it, do you like the card, you have to get it to at least 11 to even feel the effects of the card. And then you can determine whether or not you want to full invest into it. But I think that full investing into it to 15, you now have one of the best support cards in this game. Because the Banshee's Wail, there's not a lot of cards that negate boss effects anymore. Now that Bombardier is gone, and Bombardier was the main one, it's literally just Banshee and Frost, and that's pretty much it. And so I think it becomes one of the best support cards if you go to 15, but 15 is a large investment. So if you start at 9, I think that you'll understand how Banshee really works. And then if you go to 11, it'll become like a reasonably good attacking a DPS unit. And that's my advice on Banshee if you're going to invest into Banshee. With Bruiser's pretty easy. With Bruiser, I think once you get to 9, pick either Awakening Rage or Furious Brotherhood. I think that Awakening Rage is much better. A lot of people seem to be using Furious Brotherhood now because of the patch note change, and they made it stronger. But beyond a Bruiser at level 9, you have to full invest into it. It doesn't get good until 13 with the POW ability. The level 9 ability isn't great. It's fine, but it's not going to like change your game. It might push you a little bit further, but not by much. 13 is really where it's at, and then obviously 15. So I would start at 9, and if you really like Bruiser and how it functions as either Awakening Rage or Furious Brotherhood, if you really like Bruiser, I would then go for Max, but that's basically it. Like, you can't like half-ass Bruiser. It's one of those things. Like, you either really like it at 9, and you just max it out, or don't. And that's why my Bruiser is at 9. I don't have the investment right now to wanting to max it out. At max, it is very good. I have a video on my channel that is a gameplay of a game when it was like ruling the world, and it's like a 50-minute long game, and it's something to I titled it something to the effect of "If you hate long videos," because all my videos are really long, and a lot of people have complained about long videos, and that's just what my videos are. My videos are long videos. If you hate long videos, my videos are just going to get longer the better I become at this game. Because it's a singular match of like a max Bruiser going up against a max Demon Hunter, and it's like a 50-minute match. It's dumb and insane. And the reason for that is the POW ability. The ability to deal 500% of the Bruiser's attack is insane. And then the knockout ability is obviously really good. It gives you better percentage. And then you get when you merge it, it auto kills a boss. So you can auto kill just problematic bosses, namely like a Bedlam, basically. You can pretty much like nuke down everything else. But if you get Bedlammed and your entire field just like changes to literally anything else, you basically die. But those are my thoughts on Bruiser. Like, get it at 9, and then if you really like Awakening Rage or Furious Brotherhood, then your next step is to max it out, because it won't be that great until you get it to 13. And then you won't even be able to use it when you get into those max everything. You know, everybody has a max something, so you'll have to max it out. So the next point beyond 9 that it gets good is 13, and then at 13 you have to max it out. So it's either 9 or max. Those are your choices. Blade Dancer is basically the same thing. Floral Frenzy is terrible. Don't use it. Blooming Dash is the best. I am a Blooming Dash Blade Dancer player. I have played Blade Dancer forever. I probably don't even need to talk about this unit if you even watch my channel. But Blooming Dash is the better version of Blade Dancer. And every talent beyond that is just more damage. Fencing with Giants just becomes more damage. Serrated Blades gives you better crit percentage. And then Dance of the Wind gives you an AoE attack. Get Blade Dancer to 9. I think it's very good and will serve you very well at 9. And beyond that, you just have to max it out. It just gets more damage at 11, it gets more damage at 13, and it gets more damage at 15. Nothing is really necessarily going to change it. It's just, if you want to invest into Blade Dancer, and if you want to use this as your main DPS, you just have to max it out at that point. You can't stop anywhere. It doesn't become good at a certain point. If you like it at 9, when it changes to Blooming Dash, and if you really like Blooming Dash, you now have to max it out. It's the only way. Because at that point, you just need the more damage, and then the more damage, and then the more damage. And that's all it's giving you. So it's not like there's a talent that drastically changes. It's just more damage, more damage, more damage. And that's how it works. Boreas, I don't even really want to talk about, because the only deck that really runs Boreas is the Boreas Grindstone deck. There are some niche control decks. I remember there used to be a Clock Boreas deck that used Sleep Arrows and Clock, obviously, but there are now better usages for Clock. That Boreas is not a great DPS unit, at which point it becomes a support unit in a deck that is based on a support unit, which is Clock, at which point you need a DPS unit, and then you need support cards to boost up the DPS card, right? So now you need another DPS card if you're just going to use this for Sleep Arrows, and maybe if you max it out, Force of Wind. But again, there are just better ways to doing this. And then if you're running Boreas Grindstone, it's going to fall off. I've seen max Boreas Grindstone decks, and they don't do well. You're going to be outclassed because if you spent the time in maxing out a Boreas, it's not a DPS unit. It is a support unit, and it's a bad support unit at that, because there are better ways of getting Sleep Arrows and Force of Wind, namely Frost. Frost is a better level 15 for the Force of Wind. He has the Ice Walk, which amongst the rest of his talents are just better at doing that exact thing. And with Sleep Arrows, Clock is better. And I'd rather max out Clock than maxing out a Boreas. And so I wouldn't even upgrade Boreas if you don't need to. It's not a card that you max out at all. It's not good unless it gets a rework. There are better things that do what Boreas is trying to do. As a DPS unit, Inquisitor is better. Inquisitor Clock as a deck is better than Boreas Clock and then another DPS unit. You might as well just play a Dark Inquisitor and a Clock, or a Tesla and a Clock, or a Robot and a Clock. Because if you're just using it for Sleep Arrows and Clock, you might as well just use a better DPS unit and Clock. And it's just, it'll serve you better. If you're trying to use it for Boreas Grindstone, you'd have to max it out. And then if you had a max Boreas and not a max anything else DPS card, you're going to be outclassed by every other max DPS card. Because you have to understand that once you get a max DPS card, you're going to be battling against people who also have max DPS cards. And your max Boreas max Grindstone is going to be completely outclassed by literally every other max legendary with talents. You're going to be outclassed by Inquisitor, Cultist, Tesla, Spirit Master, name it, right? I wouldn't invest into Boreas at all. Corsair doesn't have talents, so I'm not even going to talk about it. I trust that it will become good once it gets talents, but currently in the game, it just doesn't really work that well. Cultist. I think that Cultist gets really good at 11. I think 13 and 15 are both damage abilities, and so you'll just get more damage and then more damage. But I think if you really want to know whether or not you want to invest into Cultist, I would get it to at least 11. I would only use it if you are also running Mermaid, because Cleansing Sacrifice is awful. It used to be really good when you sacrifice a Cultist, you would get cleansed 3 times. 3 different units would be cleansed. But now that it's currently just 1 unit, it's awful. I wouldn't even use it. I would use Great Ritual, and then I would use Harbinger of Evil, and then I would use a level 5 Mermaid. If you don't have a level 5 Mermaid, your Cultist is going to be very bad. It's going to be very slow, and it's going to be very bad. Once you start hitting King Puddings, this isn't even to say if you hit what's it called, a robot, like a robot shaman deck, because robot and shaman both have stun ability, or the robot has stun abilities, and then the shaman will shaman you. And let's say you try to sacrifice something to cleanse one thing, you could potentially cleanse the 2 seconds robot stun. Or you could cleanse the shaman, but maybe not cleanse the dark priest that also hit you last round. It's way too slow without mermaid, without a level 5 mermaid. I would only invest into cultists if you have a level 5 mermaid, and if you don't, you're not going to be saved by the cleansing talent. I would also only invest in it to 11 unless you were planning on maxing it out. I think at max level it's fine. It's not going to beat a number of other max out decks, but I think that it does do reasonably high numbers, and I think that Harbinger of Evil is much better. People tend to run Harbinger of the Abyss and like a shaman in order to shaman the other person down, but understand that most people nowadays have mermaid. They're running mermaid, or they're running some kind of cleansing mechanic on their unit to begin with, like a Light Inquisitor with the cleanse, or Spirit Master with its cleanse, or a Blooming Dash Blade Dancer deck. And so most units can cleanse the Harbinger of the Abyss and the shamans. And if you can't shaman them down, then you're not getting any net advantage, and you're sacrificing putting in just a better support card, like a Chemist, like a Enchant Sword. And you're also sacrificing the ability of Harbinger of Evil, which is giving you a damage boost every single time you eat a cultist. And so if you are going to run Harbinger of the Abyss and you're going to run shaman, if you are not actively like hitting them with shamans, if you're not actively messing up their board, and you're running into decks that can auto cleanse themselves all the time, you will die every single time. And that's why I think that Harbinger of Evil is much better, because it's better to out damage than it is to try to negate their board. In some cases, if they cannot cleanse, if you're in a meta where you're really early on and people really early on don't have like a level 5 mermaid, they don't have like a Light Inquisitor with the cleanse talent, they don't have a level 13 Spirit Master. If you're in that meta, it's really good, obviously. But if you find yourself running into a bunch of decks that are just negating all of your shamans and your abysses, it's not going to be good, and just run Harbinger of Evil instead. But I think that if you're going to invest into Cultist, go to 11, and then it's your choice of whether or not you want to full invest in it, and then go to 15. Demon Hunter, I think that once you get to 9, if you really like Demon Hunter, you can go to max. I don't think that it really changed. I think Dark Pact is really good. But I think that at that point, you kind of need to full invest into Demon Hunter, because that is just going to increase your damage. The 13 ability is just going to increase your damage, and then 15 is obviously just going to increase your damage. I think that if you have it at 9 and you like either Twilight Hunting, which is the nerfed talent, it's still fine right now, but it is the nerfed talent. And then Absorption of Evil is basically how you used to play Demon Hunter, with an extra mechanic of every single time you kill a boss or a mini boss, you get a counter on one of your Demon Hunters. When you eat that counter, that point gets distributed to a Demon Hunter with the most points, and so you can basically stack. If you're running Growth Tile, you're basically kind of using Absorption of Evil like a Dark Inquisitor, and you're just putting a singular Demon Hunter, powering it up, merging onto your Growth Tiles to pump up that thing, and then every time you kill a boss or mini boss and your level 1 gets a counter, you immediately eat that counter, and eat that Demon Hunter, and then all of those points will go towards your main Demon Hunter that you're powering up. And so you're basically trying to power up the one Demon Hunter, but at the same time you also need to also have an amount that is greater than 40 so that your demon hunters can go into demon form. Because I've been into battles where I was literally trying to run it like a Dark Inquisitor, and I was trying to just keep the one like level 7, and that doesn't work either. You still need to have other demon hunters. So you have to be careful about that. And if you like that style of play, and if you like how that works, you just have to full invest into it. 11 is going to change you, but it's just damage. 13 is just more damage, and then 15 is obviously just more damage. So if you do like the unit, then you have to full invest into it, but I would get it to 9 so that you can make that choice. Demonologist, I would really only recommend Archdemon. Sinister Technique gives you you have a better chance of getting an orb, which means that you will have more archdemons. But Archdemon is one of those things that seem like it's from yesteryear. Like, it was a talent that seemed really good at the time, but again, now that so many things have the power to cleanse, it's not going to do as much as it used to. So it used to like just stun 5 things on your opponent's board, and you could technically like on their boss round just summon or merge a bunch of demon hunters and just like stun their entire field. There are now more efficient ways of doing that, sharpshooter being one of them, and I don't ever see like higher level demon hunters being played. I think that if you are going to invest into demon hunter, you just have to go all 15, because if it's not going to do anything for you at anything lesser. If you're using it for the archdemon stun, use sharpshooter instead, and it'll do it more efficiently. Yeah, that's how I feel about demonologist. Spirit Master is really good at 13, and it's really good at 13, obviously because of Storm Power, because that's when it gets the ability to self cleanse every Spirit Master on the field. But being a person that has a level 13 Spirit Master, I'm like in my battles, I'm currently running up against people with max everything. And at that point, when you get to 13, you kind of have to just take it to 15, or else you're still not going to be able to use it. What I'm saying is, I think that Spirit Master is one of the better one of the better units, event units. I think it's one of the better event units that constantly puts up high damage numbers in high level PvP. But I think that it's only really good at max. I don't think it's good prior to, because even at 13, you're just going to run up against a person who has a level. When you get to a level 13 and you push PvP with Spirit Master, you can push pretty hard. But then you're just going to start running into people that have a level 15 Spirit Master, and they're obviously going to beat you. So once you get to 13, you kind of have to go to 15, and so what I'm trying to say is Spirit Master is only good at level 15, and it's really hard for me to say that. I think that 13 will push you pretty far, but then at that point, you kind of just want a 15. And so you just kind of have to full invest into Spirit Master if you're going to invest into Spirit Master. I don't think it's just good at 13, because then you're just going to start losing to people who have it 2 levels higher than you. Dryad is interesting. I think Dryad at 9 is very good. And the Fairy of Growth, you will upgrade so fast with Fairy of Growth. If you have a Dryad at 9, which is what I would recommend, Fairy of Growth is going to serve you very well. If you have a Dryad at 11, Fairy of Rage is going to serve you very well. And Fairy of Rage is the thing that most pro players use. Harlequin and Dryad are two of the best support cards in this game right now. And Fairy of Rage, with the level 11 Gift of Nature upgrade talent, it's going to push you very far in every single one of your decks. I think that Dryad at 9 is fine, and if you have it at 9, just use Fairy of Growth. Don't use Fairy of Rage. If you have it at 11, which is what I would recommend, get it to you start using Fairy of Rage and then Gift of Nature. 13 is not great. Yes, it is a cleanse mechanic. When you upgrade a unit, it will cleanse. Yes, you can either slow down your opponent or speed up your side of the field for a specific amount of time. But that has never, in any game I've ever played with people who have the 13 talent unlocked and they poisonous fruit my board, I've never, ever in my entire career felt like the reason why I lost is because they poisonous fruited me. So it's good because it gives you a cleanse, but it only cleanses you if you upgrade, that unit. It's basically a bonus. And if you, so what I'm trying to say is I think it's really good at 9. I think it's very good at 11. But if you're going to go to 13, you just have to go to 15 to max it out and get the Gold Dryad. The Gold Dryad is obviously why you want to run Dryad. It's the double upgrade. Being able to upgrade something from a 3 to a 5 is insanity. Being able to upgrade something from a 5 to a 7 is insanity. And that's what the Gold Dryad can do. It double upgrades a unit. And it puts you very far ahead. But again, that's at max Dryad. I think a Dryad can be good at 9 or it can be good at 11. If you go to 13, you just have to go to 15. And that's I would stop at 11 unless you feel like going to 15. Frost is pretty easy. It doesn't work unless you have it at 15. I think that Icy Breath is great. Cold-Blooded makes it better. Because it extends how long Icy Breath happens. The Ice Walk is one of the reasons to run it. But I think that Frost King is the actual reason to run Frost. The other things are bonuses, but they're not going to... because Frost is one of those cards in the Necromancer deck. It's in the Necromancer Minotaur Meteor Witch deck. And I think that if you're going to invest into Frost and you want to use it seriously, you just have to have a max Frost. You're not going to see that big of a difference in your deck if you just have it at 9 or if you just have it at 11 or if you just have it at 13. It's going to do something, but it's not going to be at its full potential. And I feel like the card only shines if it's at a max Frost and you're able to auto freeze like 3 things, because a deck that has the ability to auto freeze things with Frost, auto freeze things with Snowflake, then shaman you is insane. I've played against it so many times, and even running Blooming Dash Blade Dancer, I can't defend against that. Like if it just freezes my a unit, I can't Portal Keeper it away, and then if it shamans that same unit, it usually lasts for much longer, because that's how they run it. They wait until some of your units get frozen with either Frost or Snowflake abilities, and then they shaman you. They don't shaman you before. They shaman you when that happens. Because if it shamans something that's under the effect, it's going to get ranked down, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's insane. So I don't think that if you're going to invest in a Frost, you have to get it at 15. It doesn't become like amazing if it's at 9. It doesn't become amazing if it's at 11. It doesn't become amazing if it's 13. You're using it for every ability at the same time. You're not using it just to every so often freeze out their mana. And then every so often freeze out their mana for longer. Like, it's not going to do that much of a difference. And if you want to invest in a Frost, you just have to max it out. Sorry about that. I've been talking for 35 minutes and I was like, I need a drink of water, but I can easily just pause this. It'll be fine. Inquisitor. Inquisitor, you're probably going to find very interesting. I think that you need Inquisitor at 11, and then beyond that, it's just damage. So I think that if you get a Light Inquisitor or Dark Inquisitor, I think that will just that option will advance your ability to do more things with your Inquisitor deck. But I think that both of those talents only shine if you have the 11 ability. So Light Inquisitor is only really good because of the Purify ability. And Dark Inquisitor is only good because of the Shield ability. That you don't just get out of the gate at 9. You need the 11 talent. So if you are going to run Inquisitor, you have to have it at least 11. But if you like it, you just have to max it out. 13 is going to give you more damage on both regards, and then 15 is going to give you more damage and a stun. I think that at 11, it's reasonably good. So you could stop there if you don't want to max out Inquisitor, but if you don't, you have to max out Inquisitor. At that point, you just have to get the 13, get the 15, win everything. I think it's a very good card to max out. If you are going to think about maxing out anything, I think it's a very consistent card that is always in the meta somewhere. Whether it be Light Inquisitor, Sharpshooter, whether it be Dark Inquisitor, Sharpshooter, or Dark Inquisitor Trapper, or Dark Inquisitor Clock. I think that there's so much variation to both versions of the deck. And I think that it's very strong and proves to be very strong in every single month and every single update. They've nerfed Inquisitor so many times, and it's still trucking along. It's still putting up impressive damage numbers. So I would go to at least 11. And if you really like Inquisitor, and if you have the ability to invest in it, I would actually recommend that you invest into it to make it a 15. But make it at least 11, and you'll get a really good sense of how Inquisitor works. Because 13 and 15 just become damage. Knight statue. I don't have the level 15 ability. I will get it pretty soon. I'm just waiting on a couple copies. I think one copy. I'm waiting on one copy of a Knight statue, and I will max it out. I think that Sharpened Spear is very versatile. I think you can use Sharpened Spear in way more decks than what Covenant of Veterans does for you. I think Covenant of Veterans is just very boring. It's just the basic version of what it used to do anyway. And you're not really going to notice a difference in your gameplay from what it used to do or what it used to be to what it is now. Roll call is just going to give you more damage. If you're running the Covenant of Veterans, which is the old Knight Statue build, and you're running Covenant of Veterans roll call and hold the line, you're not going to even notice a difference between a regular Knight Statue and a talented Knight Statue. You're basically it plays the exact same way, and I think it's very boring. To be honest, I think it's very boring, and I don't necessarily know if you're going to even notice a difference between the three talents. I think that if you are going to invest into a Knight Statue, I would go to 11 and go Sharpened Spear and Roll Call. I think the variation that you can have with a Sharpened Spear and a Roll Call, it's going to the way that Sharpened Spear works and how it multiplies with Roll Call. I just posted a video called Spear Dash. It's my build on Sharpened Spear and Blooming Dash. And the interaction between Sharpened Spear and Roll Call is insane. I think that you can build a lot of stacks on Sharpened Spear, and I think it's more interesting than just running a Knight Statue build. Obviously, if you're running Light Inquisitor, maybe just having the consistency of Covenant of Veterans Roll Call, hold the line, it's better. But I think that if you don't want to invest too much into Knight Statue, I think if you invest into 9 and 11, I think that's fine. I think Hold the Line is just extra damage, and 15 is just extra damage. It's going to give you an attack, and it's going to give you 10%, reducing monster armor by 20%. So it is better than what J does. But if you've ever used J for the defense the 10% defense down that you have on activation, it's not noticeable. It's not great. And I think that even though it's better because it's giving you additional damage, the Night Statue damage doesn't stack. One, it doesn't stack, and two, I don't necessarily know if you're going to notice the 20% difference. Yes, there is a difference, but I don't think you're going to necessarily notice the difference. So I think if you really want to invest into Night Statue, I think I would go to 11 and use Sharpened Spear and Roll Call. And then if you just feel like having a max Night Statue, go to 15. This one's going to be easy. Meteor and Minotaur. I don't see them. I'm never afraid of them in their own DPS decks. So I wouldn't even recommend a specific talent level. But what I can tell you is it's incredibly good in the Necromancer deck. And in the Necromancer deck, I've only seen maxed out versions of both of them. With Meteor, you're using it for the Apocalypse ability. And even though it's only a 10% chance, you're merging out so many meteors that you're probably going to trigger Apocalypse more often than you'd think. And so it is still very good. Minotaur, I think it's one of the best abilities is the Ancient Rampage. It's where he stuns 3 units on the opponent's field for 3 seconds every time whenever he appears. I think that's the ability that you're really using it for. So I think you can use Minotaur at 11, but basically you kind of want it at 15. You just want the extra damage. It's one of your DPS units in that deck. And I think that it's very good at 15, but you could potentially just leave it at 11. I think with Meteor, you kind of have to just max it out or not use it at all. I don't think there is a DPS deck where Meteor is your DPS and you just run Meteor. I don't think it's good. I think that it's good as a support in other decks. And if you're using it as a support in other decks, you just kind of have to max it out because it's not as good lesser. It's not going to change. It's all damage, and it's not going to change the functionality if you have it at just 9 or just 11 or just 13. You just kind of have to have it at max. With Monk, I think you have to have it at 11. They're probably going to change Equilibrium, but I think that if you have Monk, you need Equilibrium and Illumination. Currently, Equilibrium, Illumination, and a level 5 Mermaid are just running circles around PvP. It's the best thing. Rebirth is the talent that people use at 13. And it's not... If you know how to play Monk, it's not even going to matter. It helps, obviously, but it's the better talent of the two, and it's not really going to change your game, other than the fact that at 13, it's 2 levels higher and your damage is just better because it's higher. And then at 15, you get the crit chance boost, and the area attack bonus at the intersections is 50% better. So that's just damage. So I would highly recommend it to go to 11, like get your Monk to 11. Beyond that, it just becomes damage, and that becomes your choice of whether or not you want to max it out. Enchant Sword. Originally, level 9 was like the place to be. Currently, the place to be is 13. A level 9 Enchant Sword is not great. A level 11 Enchant Sword is not great. A level 13 is okay. And I say it's okay because it's not as good as it used to be, because the only time it triggers is on boss rounds, and even at that, it only triggers once. So the reason why you're getting an Enchant Sword is now no longer for the Approving Glands, which is the cleanse ability. Originally, the the thing that you wanted from Enchant Sword was the cleanse ability. Currently, the thing that I think that you want from the Enchant Sword is the Eternal Gaze. The way that Eternal Gaze works is every boss round, one time during the boss round, and only so even if you go into double bosses, it's only going to trigger once. Even if you go into triple bosses, it's only going to trigger once. When you enter the boss round, what's going to happen is the computer is going to look at two swords, one red and one blue. And if you have an awakened sword on the field, 5 splashes are going to happen onto all of your units. If you have a red sword on your field, 5 negative splashes are going to happen onto your opponent's units. But if you have a blue non-awakened sword and a blue awakened sword, it's only going to randomly pick one of them. So potentially, you could have only 2 splashes go towards your units. So basically what you're trying to do is right before a boss round, you're trying to only have the blue awakened sword on your field as the only blue sword on your field. Because if you're able to leave just a blue awakened sword on your field, and if you're running a deck that has Scrapper, for instance, and you can just keep eating every other sword, and you can just have the one awakened sword, you're going to have 5 splashes every single boss round. Now, this doesn't work very well in co-op because there's a limited amount of bosses. It really doesn't work well in Dragon Rift because there's only like 3 bosses in most cases. But in PvP, if you are going into triple boss territory, you will get this to trigger so many times, and it becomes very, very good. Because it can just sit there and just splash your field and splash your field and splash your field, and it's insane. But again, this is only good at 13, and at 13 you might as well get it to 15 because then you get the actual attack speed boosts from the growing supremacy. But I wouldn't recommend Enchant Sword at anything less than 13, and even at 13, it's just kind of okay. Sorry, this is just a whole lot of talking. This is just nonstop monologuing for an hour. Okay, Robot. The stun rockets is incredibly appealing. I'm gonna tell you right now, it's not great. I think very early on, it's very good against bad players, and those are the players that usually complain about it. It's people with just a robot and a shaman, right? When you get into the big leagues, when people start actively using a lot of reasonably good cards, the 2-second stun that you're obtaining from the robot coming into play is not that great. I'm not saying it's nothing. I'm just saying it's less good than you think it is. I've played a monk deck where they were running robot shaman, and it's basically my worst matchup. And I'm still reasonably, okay with beating it. It's very good. It's not as great as you think it is. And then in my, Blooming Dash Blade Dancer just shits all over it. Stun Rockets is fine. But again, Robot is an event unit. It's very hard to invest into it. And what I'm going to tell you is you're not going to but Robot is only good at max. If you're using Robot as your DPS unit, you have to max it out. If you are planning to use Robot at all, you can't just have a level 9 Robot. It's useless in a deck. You can't just use it as a support card that happens to have stun rockets. And then you could use it with pure energy. It's not good. It's not, and then as a DPS unit, it has to be a max robot. For it to do a reasonable amount of damage. Because you get to a point where, I have it at 13, and I never feel like I can go up against a max unit, a max legendary. Because like when you have like a level 13, you're going up against max legendaries, and once you get to 13 on some of these units, you just have to go to 15. And even at 15, I'm telling you right now, it's kind of just okay. It like when Robot when it first came out, it was very good and it was broken. It was one of the best DPS units in this game, and then they nerfed it in a lot of different ways over the course of time, and now it's just fallen behind so much, especially not having a cleanse mechanic, and you just have to merge it out or run a mermaid. That means you can't run gadget, which would greatly help it. But you can't run it because there's not a good cleanse mechanic. That's not because Enchant Sword used to be a really good cleanse mechanic, and it's not anymore. And then you could try to run a Portal Keeper, but then you're just going to have very low robots, and it's going to be very random if you are running that in a deck that also has Portal Keepers. You're going to get these really awkward level Portal Keepers. You could potentially get a 1, 2, 3, 4 level Portal Keeper on your board and just be screwed, because then you could also have a 1, 2, 3, 4 robot and also be screwed. It's something that you just have to max out. Like, it's not really good at lesser levels. You're just going to notice that it just continues to not be good. It's not that great at 9. It's kind of okay at 11. It's a little bit better at 13, but you're still dying to just people with max, cultists, max Teslas, because that's what happens when you get to 13. When you get to 13, you're going to start running into people with max legendaries. And is this legendary good enough to play with somebody who has a max version of a legendary? And Robot simply isn't. Without the BRG 1000, the plus 80 merges is not good enough for damage. You need the extra damage from the BRG 1000 and from the extra damage that you're getting off of going from 13 to 15. But yeah, Summoner, I reasonably talked about, like, at the beginning of this video. I would take it to 9 and then take it to 13 and 15. If you're not planning on maxing it out, I would at least go to 9. Enhanced Summoning will change the game for you. I think that Enhanced Summoning is very, very strong. I would never use Multiple Summoning, nor would I ever recommend it. Enhanced Summoning is where it's at. The 11 talent is fine. It's been used against me. It's fine. But it's not gonna, it's not gonna change your life. I think 13 is going to change your life, and 15 is obviously going to change your life. But if you don't want to max it out, I think that 9 is very good, a very good place to stop. Tesla is yet another event unit that is very strong, but it's only very strong at max Tesla. I've played against people who have a lesser Tesla, and it's not that great. It's not that impressive. A max Tesla is where it's at. If you're going to invest in a Tesla, I would just max it out. The Protective Field used to be really good when Shaman and Witch were in the meta and there weren't as many cleanse effects. It was like Portal Keeper or nothing. And because it was at a time when there was no Enchant Sword, there was no Mermaid, there wasn't a lot of things that exist right now. And so Protective Field was one of the best defensive mechanics, other than Engineer, I suppose. Protective Field was one of the best mechanics, but nowadays I think people would probably run Energy Power Up, because they'd probably run this in a Mermaid deck with it's Tesla Clock. Tesla Clock is amazing. But everything in this is just power, 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 power. And it's just a unit that doesn't really change. It just gets stronger and stronger and stronger, at which point you kind of just want it at its max strongest, if it's not going to drastically change from talent to talent. And it's just talents that are designed to make it stronger. And if you're going to make it stronger, you might as well have the best. You kind of just have to max it out for you to be able to use it. Seadog, I actually want to say, is very good at just a level 9 for Cursed Treasure by itself. Cursed Treasure, because it has the ability to go through shields, it has the ability to go through Dark Inquisitor shield, and it has the ability to go through Portal Keeper shield, which, by the way, still kind of exists. I think beyond level 9, the 13 talent is what everybody wants to use it with. The Goddess Shovel ability is kind of like an equilibrium on Monk. It's a much more difficult version, yes, but if a lot of your Seadogs were level 4s on the field, and you just kept using the activation ability to move the treasure eventually, and then just, you know, you just have to dig it up with a level 4. You'd auto dig it up with a level 4. I think that's really good. Explosive Surprise is why everybody is like, oh my god, this is like the best thing ever. You don't get a lot of rare treasures very often. And so this thing isn't going to come into play as often as you would want it to. You're really just using this for the Cursed Treasure. And I think with the Cursed Treasure, it's good enough. I think that's why even when it first came out, when it, like, the event first dropped, you were still seeing this in a lot of in the Necromancer Toxic deck, just at level 9. It obviously becomes better at higher levels, but I think that even at 9 it's really strong if you're trying to use it as a toxic thing. But yeah, that's how I feel about that. And, like, it's obviously much better just in the Necromancer deck. Because if you're Necromancering, like, everything on the outer edges, and then you have, like, a witch tile in the center, and then you just, like, auto-stun 2 things for 4 seconds every time you dig up a treasure. Like, it's... the amount of, like, oppression is insane. Gift of the Raven... I think that a lot of people use 9 and 11. They're either using Cruel Joke and Polymorph, or they're using Gift of the Raven with Unstable Magic. I think that once you get into 13, 15, you just have to go 13, 15. Like, you just have to, like, go and max out your witch. But I think you can like reasonably leave it at 9 and 11, and you'll see pretty much what witch can do. I think 13 and 15 obviously make it better, but I think if you really just want to reasonably use witch, I think you can stay at 11, unless you want to max it out. But those are my thoughts. Let me know how wrong I am in the comments.